Hello,
Hello,
and this is Dixon,
and Gibbo.
and we're going to do another episode of Beta Buy or Beta Not, where we go over the beta of a video game and we give you our take on whether it's worth buying or not.
Aha, almost like the name.
Aha.
So, today we are going over Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. Now, Don, I did not have the privilege of playing this beta, so you will be taking the lead. So, please, if you would, tell me what your thoughts are.
All right, so I'll start off with the good first. The game is absolutely gorgeous. The open world is vast and it's extremely detailed for the amount of area that you have available for you. Anything you see, you can get to. Any little spot, there's many ways of getting there. You don't necessarily have to take the roads. You can cut through the trees. You can go over mountains. Plenty of different ways to do that. The other thing that I did like a lot about it is the variety of vehicles that you can get into. You know, just like in, say, Grand Theft Auto, you can steal it from a person or you can just grab a random vehicle that's on the side of the road. And the handling of the vehicles wasn't too bad for what I was expecting. Granted, it's not like a driving simulator, so it's not going to be fantastic, like perfect handling, but it's good for what this game is, which is a shooting game. The other portion of this that I really liked, and throughout this I'm going to be referring a lot to The Division because that's a lot what it reminded me of, which is good and bad for the same reasons Division was good and bad. There are a lot of different upgrade trees that you can go into. I think there was about 5 total, maybe 6, and you can go into upgrading your drone, upgrading your person, your weapons, your inventory, certain special skills that you can do with the rebels, which are the kind of group you're working with to overall overtake the country that you're in. I'm not even sure how they did it, but I think it was Bolivia that they centered in, and that you have to take over this drug cartel and take down all the different parts of it. But the way that you can upgrade, it's very much unique, and I know you would love this, but there's tons and tons and tons of customization of your character. Customization. You can change the look, the make of their face, their scars, their hats, their pants, and there's like 30 different colors of each of them too, so you can just make it just how you want to be. And for the beta itself, they didn't even have all the options available, and it still took me about 20 minutes to actually get down and make my character exactly how I was. So I can only imagine how long it would take someone that actually goes in and loves customizing their stuff.
This sounds like my kind of game.
Well, and that's those were like the big portions of it. And unfortunately, now it gets to more of the bad part. And the bad part is what drives most of my feelings towards the game. It looks gorgeous. It has the potential with the big open world, much better than Division, where even though they said it was open world, it was just a couple streets. You couldn't get into all the buildings. And in this one, you can access everywhere. In that sense, the gameplay feels very clunky. It doesn't feel like it as smooth as it should. Now, a big portion of it is you can't necessarily stick to walls or you have to crouch behind walls rather than actually stick to them or clamber over them and stuff like that. It's not very fluid in the actual combat itself. Additionally, while the ideas are there that they have a lot of things that benefit doing objectives stealthily, and where you coordinate like these dual shots that you can go into, and with one to three other people in your team, you can coordinate, all right, everybody, this is your target, I'll take one, you take two, and you pick them off at the same time. While that mechanic is very nice, as long with the stealth mechanics, it is so easy to get caught up. Like, there will be 3 enemies, you take out 2 of them, and it's like the third one almost has fucking ESP and can tell that you are going to, like, you were there and that their friend from across the complex got killed. It's like, my spidey sense is tingling. They're dead. They sound the alarm. And the one thing that this game really isn't is one where you're meant to take on hordes upon hordes of people, or at least that's how I felt, is that it's a Ghost Recon game. You're supposed to be stealthy. You're supposed to try and execute these things with minimal people knowing what's going on. But it is so easy to activate the hordes of people that come in, and let me tell you, they spawn almost immediately on top of you. Like, there's very little time to recover and get to an area where you can properly defend it. Additionally, the actual shooting, switching from side to side, which shoulder you're shooting over, and the actual combat that came with it it didn't feel smooth. It didn't feel as good as the game looks. And if it felt as half as good as the game looked, this would be a fantastic, perfect, I would say, run out and get this right now. The problem is that the gameplay in that sense is not that fantastic. Additionally, the part of the open world is it is a huge, massive open world, and you can travel anywhere and everything like that. The problem is that with helicopters and cars, it takes an eternity to get where you need to go. One of the first missions actually available is you take a helicopter, you take your person that you're protecting to the checkpoint, and it takes forever. And granted, it says it's like 2 kilometers, so I'm sure I can't get 2 kilometers very quickly either, but as a video game, you're supposed to be a little bit removed from like the realistic part of the world, so when it takes you literally 30 minutes to get to a place that's 2 minutes away when you're flying in a helicopter, kind of bums me out. Kind of makes it to where I'm spending most of the time traveling and not actually getting to enjoy the game. The last part that I have the criticism for is a lot of times it is with the open world aspect, you're supposed to be able to do what you want to do, go to different portions of the game and take on different branches in whatever order you want to do it in. The guidance in that is very limited. Is that you'll get the missions, you can put them on the checkpoint, and they'll drive you there essentially. But there's a lot of other side missions that you walk into accidentally and completely unprepared for. One particular example is when I was playing with a friend, is that we went into it and actually stumbled into a little base that we had to take over. We had no idea about it, and all of a sudden we're swarmed by people. There was no big indication besides a very faint color change over the map. And there's no like explanation of what that means. And then you walk by it, they discover you, and they completely mow you down. And to travel for such a long distance to get to the objectives can either be successful or fail. Either way, they happen almost in like 5 minutes. Like you can complete the whole thing unless you survey out for literally a half hour to plan every single enemy's movement and then go in. That seems like it's a big waste of time in order to do it when you can succeed or fail a mission that you don't even know is right next to you in under 5 minutes.
Yeah. So you say the game looks good. Are there loading screens, or is it all just one giant world that you literally can just go anywhere in?
There are very small loading screens, but it's mainly having to do with the cutscenes. And the way that they actually do it is with the loading screens themselves, they incorporate some action into it. So like when you're actually finding one of the lieutenants and you're beating them down, there is a small loading icon that will appear, but it's so small and they phase it in there so smooth that you wouldn't be able to tell. So that, like I said, that I think that has to do with more how the game looks, but just how it felt just wasn't right.
So combat not smooth, but loading smooth.
Correct.
Okay. And you said if you were comparing it to The Division. So The Division, I mean, it was like a level-based, loot-based, you killed enemies that were your level. You got to see what level they were, and then you would try to kill them and get their different rarities of loot. Was there anything like that in this game?
It is similar in that sense, not in the way that you would... There are level systems, like you go up in levels, but it's like it bases it off the tiers of skills that you can get based on what level you're at.
So it's not a number?
Not in particular, no. It's there are like bars that display like your accuracy and the damage you do with a particular gun, and you can get a variety of guns, but nothing beyond of where you're looking for specific numbers. There are numbered levels, but it's like this is the tier level that you're at now.
But for like, let's say you do have to attack a base. Is there any indication as to how strong you should be before going in there?
There's not anything in particular that brings that up. It's more or less you have to feel it out, which is something else that kind of didn't catch my fancy because, granted, yes, if the base looks big and imposing, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do. But a lot of other games, especially like in The Division, you could go to an area that has like 4 or 5 people, and you're like, this is nothing, and you go in and you get completely slaughtered by level 20 goons. And granted, you know that going into it because you can generally see the levels that are over it, or it'll give you some indication. With this, it's just based on the structures that they're in, and that's kind of a strange way of showing it.
A little more realistic in the way that real world won't tell you what level the enemy is.
Yeah, precisely. And I guess that's more of the aim for Ghost Recon itself, but at the same time, to have some sort of indication to know what you're getting into. Like, there is a structure system itself, but also to kind of sense if it's something that I can take on by myself or I need to get a crew of people.
Yeah. So this game is a lot about not getting detected.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, at the end of the day, we got to call it a better buy, better wait, or a better not. What is the verdict?
I got to say with this one, I really wanted it to be a beta buy because of just how wonderful the game looks. And it's a Ghost Recon game, and they do a very good job of how it looks. However, the thing that fell off for me is that it is so close to Division that you could almost say it's Division in a jungle-type area. And it has some of the good parts of Division, but also a lot of the bad parts, plus separate bad parts itself. I gotta say it's a beta not. There are too many things that have to do with the core gameplay itself that are just lacking. And granted, this was a beta, but there are things in there that they're not just an easy patch to put in. It's the whole feel and how the combat was developed. No matter how beautiful the game looks, if it doesn't play right, it's not playable.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you so much for your thoughts. I hope that this helped anyone who may be listening and thinking about buying the game. I'd like to remind everyone that beta buy, beta not is solely based on the beta. Hopefully there are changes for the better when the actual game comes out. So feel free to check it out yourselves and let us know what you think. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.